The Legend of the River. "Life is an action, not a thought," said the river as he glided on between the banks. "Life is motion, life is energy, and must find its outlet in the great sea. Without a tidal recurrence, in which I feel the pulse of the ocean to my very source, should I be the great historic river that I am? Not great in size, perhaps. Indeed, it is my charm that I am both great and small. Here, where I rest in the sun, hardly moving in my narrow bed, I can feel the warmth and fertility of the earth flow into my veins, and for a moment I am content to lie dreaming in a backwater. But come with me, and I will show you round the next bend, where the grove hides my widening pathway, how I race. I sweep past gaily decorated houseboats, past parks and meadows, past villages and ancient manors, whose history I have made. Age cannot weaken me, and only strong skulls can pull against my will. Mighty am I, the river god. My fords have determined the sites of famous towns, and my locks say to all who would pass by, Halt! Obey my laws if you would navigate my ways. Enter through the sliding gates where the waters roar and darkness falls across the sunshine." And thus the river, old and experienced, restless and vacillating, communed with himself. Power had made him intolerant, and none dared coerce him, least of all the swaying rushes who dwelt beside his banks and were dependent on his changing moods and currents. They had lost all power of resistance. Trodden upon for ages, they had become the world's symbol of weakness, and the winds and tides swayed them as they would. But they were beautiful, and birds nested in their frail palisades and sang to the river as he passed. What wonder that he was proud of his dominion, and that he felt his power? But who was truly happy? Alas, he knew that his depths were turbid, and that he was polluted by the ceaseless traffic of ships that came and went. The waters of the great seaports swept far inland to his source, and then turning restlessly, demanded the treasure of the river and levied on all his peaceful waters a toll to the sea. Life was too much for him, and buried in the depths below his smiling surface, he was very tired. So tired that at times he loved to stretch out his arms over the low green meadows and rest. There for a while he would know calm, but he could never stay. No act was enduring. His waters were like quicksilver, and morning found him always in a different place. His restless nature communicated itself to all whom he touched. Boats could not be trusted for a moment alone on his waters, and even the baby swans were so wild that at night their parents tied them to the rushes lest in the morning they too should be gone. "Ah," sighed the river, "if my spirit could find rest! But my waters must go on eternally, for old and powerful as I am, I can never change the tides that rule me. Would that I might somewhere find a land-locked harbor, there to lie so still that every cloud and every star might be reflected on my surface." Once upon a summer evening, two lovers came floating down the stream, sometimes sculling, sometimes letting the current carry their boat whither it would, as though their thoughts were not concerned with the surrounding scene. Love is an indifferent pilot, and they had abandoned the rudder to his guidance. Who knows what unheroic accident might have overtaken them had not the river seen them and loved them for their trustfulness? So many lovers came to him confiding in his guardianship and secrecy, that the old river had grown to believe that half the marriages in England were made by him. There must be something about me that suggests the thing, he reasoned. Maybe it is the sense of playing with danger that they feel, the charm of being carried on by unexpected tides, the excitement of threading the gloomy locks where I close them in and roar at them until they have decided. But in spite of his aloofness from human weakness, the river lapped gently against the sides of their boats and rejoiced when he reflected youth and beauty. On this summer evening of which I write, a face as lovely as he had ever seen looked down upon him, and a slim brown hand reached over the boat and touched him caressingly, holding him a moment in its shell-like palm. The river dimpled and broke in sparkling bubbles where the hand had been, and wondered what this curious madness love could be, and whether a river might come to feel it too. At such thoughts he glided so gently that the boat scarce moved upon the tide, where all the flowery sedges lay mirrored. Somewhere a nightingale was singing in the distant wood. It ceased, and in the silence the young girl spoke. "Do you know that sometimes your life suggests to me this river? It is so diversified, so active, so rarely calm, as now, when the current scarcely moves, and we glide through a reflected universe. Even your love for me is restless and questioning. Why is it, dear? Would not life gain in beauty and in depth if we stopped more often to reflect as the river does tonight?" "The end of man is an action, not a thought," replied her lover softly, stopping the idle play of the oars that he might look more intently in her eyes, filled with the grey light of evening, while the river, with his lips to the boat's side, heard with amazement his very words repeated. "Action, action," he murmured. "I knew that I was right, and yet how strangely appealing her words are. Poets can always express our longings." "It is wonderful," she went on musingly, "to be in the vortex of life, to embark on great enterprises, to carry great responsibilities, as you do. My life has passed within sound of this stream. Dreams have been my realities. An artist but reflects and absorbs. No one has ever wanted me for vital things." "Ah, but I do," exclaimed her lover. "I want you for everything." And the listening river felt that here was an elemental power great as his own. "I am glad," she said, "but nevertheless I am not really essential to destiny, any more than the backwater running beneath its hazel bushes is essential to the Thames." "If I could reach you," replied her lover, smiling, "I would simply stifle this talk." "Ah, but you cannot," she exclaimed playfully. "It would be most undignified in a public man whose name and career are in the world's eye." "Wait until I have you out of the boat," he threatened, and then more tenderly, as though still absorbed in her fancy, "If I am like the river, what are you like? Look over the side of the boat, and let the Thames tell you. But who shall measure the power of beauty? It subjugates the world. I sense you in every fibre of my being, but only a poet could express all you make me feel. I will yield him the right of superior eloquence so long as he leaves me the vision I see now. If, as you say, I am like the river in my nature, too turbulent to be controlled, too absorbed in making life to see the profound, simple truths that lie hidden from my sight, you shall lead me to the purer sources of knowledge. For you are like the lake that lies so near your home," pointing to an old mansion that stood somewhat back from the river. "The lake is deep and calm. Its waters are clear, for no impurity mingles with its source. Who could drink of this tidal river? It is polluted, while the lake offers a pure draught. Who sees the stars reflected in this eddying stream? Yet in the lake the whole heaven lies revealed. Is it strange that I should love the lake for being like you, while I, daring and impassioned, seek to wed my lower destiny with yours? Give me the lake, dear love, that I might mingle with it forever." The keel of the boat grated gently on the sand, and under a willow tree the lovers landed. They took the path through the meadow to the old house where, from the trees, the rooks were calling in the gathering twilight. How lonely the river felt when they had gone! He lapped the sides of their empty boat, and he followed them through a narrow backwater until it ended in a marsh. He longed to see the lake they had spoken of, that serene, transparent water untroubled by man. The river was in love with the very idea, and he felt that to mingle his waters with its depths would be to know rapture. There at last his travelled, tide-worn spirit could rest. For almost a year the river dreamed of the lake, nor ever forgot the hazel backwater where he had followed the departing lovers, and where he knew the lake must lie. Spring came, and with it the flood tides. The river grew swollen and mighty. He overflowed the meadows far and wide, and at the landing of the willow tree he shot a long watery arm inland. Sweeping all before him, he drew nearer and nearer the ancient mansion. Each day his ardor grew until he was close upon the lake that like a lovely vision lay shadowed in its grove of cypress. Thirstily his lips touched the margin, kissed the still waters, and then, in a moment of supreme rapture, he poured himself into its bosom. End of The Legend of the River by Maud H. Chapin. Read for Love Stories Volume 1 by Anita Sloma-Martinez. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.